and welcome to the latest edition of the Health and Safety Matters podcast. My name's Mark Sennett. I'm CEO of Western Business Media, which is the publisher of Health and Safety Matters magazine. You can see all the latest news in the health and safety sector from across the UK on our website, which is www.hsmsearch.com. We're delighted that this edition of the podcast is once again sponsored by the Health and Safety event, and as you may have seen this week, the event has now been moved to the 27th and 28th of April 2021 at the NEC in Birmingham. If you'd like to attend the event, you can register for free now. All you need to do is go to the website www.healthandsafetyevent.com. So as always, we start off with the news, and actually, kind of what I just said in your introduction is big news this week. Two major exhibition organisers in the health and safety sector have announced that due to COVID-19, they're going to have to move their events to next year. The health and safety event, as I mentioned a moment ago, that is no longer taking place in September. It's moving to 27th and 28th of April 2021. This is after it was initially moved back from April earlier this year. So it's been a really, really torrid time for event organisers. And I've been involved in organising events for years, and I in fact still help do the content for that event. Health and Safety Matters magazine runs a theatre there. And this is really sad news. Obviously, it's completely understandable, and I support the decision that 19 Group have made for this, and Informa for that matter, over at Safety and Health Expo. It must have been a really tough decision to make, I'm sure, but they've certainly prioritised the health and safety, no pun intended there, of any of the attendees and exhibitors. You know, the health and safety event has come on leaps and bounds and is looking to almost be double the size next year when it takes place at the NEC in Birmingham. So, you know, we're grateful for their continued support. And I'd certainly encourage you, as I said earlier, to go to their website and check out just a huge lineup of great names they've got as exhibitors. And obviously to claim your free pass. There's a lot of free CPD on offer for attending that event. And if you want more information on the event, it's, as I said, at the NEC in Birmingham on the 27th and 28th of April next year now. And you just go to www.healthandsafetyevent.com. But 19 Group weren't the only major exhibition organiser to announce a date change. Informa, which owns Safety and Health Expo, which takes place in London Excel, has also announced it will no longer be running in September, and it's moving to the 18th and 20th of May next year. So they again had originally planned to run May this year, it got moved to September, and now it's back there. So as you can see, for those exhibition organisers, 19 Group and Informa, that's an entire year without, you know, any events in the market for health and safety. So let's move on to our next news story. And this is pretty sombre reading again, and the news on this one that I wrote up was 1 in 4 serious incidents in the UK occur in the workplace, apparently. This is new research carried out by Fletcher's Serious Injury, and they've said new research into injury incidents in the UK has revealed that a shocking proportion of the population has suffered a severe injury at work within the last 5 years. This research, just for some clarity, was carried out between 1,000 adults across the UK, and it revealed that nearly 28% who had suffered a serious injury within that time frame, such as spinal injuries, burns, damages from slips, trips and falls, sustained this incident in the workplace. The findings also revealed that many of these people who'd suffered an injury weren't willing to look or make a claim for compensation. And that was about a fifth. So 19.1% said they would not and have not been pursuing a claim against serious injury. When a bit more research was done into that about what the reluctance was, about 1 in 8 respondents, that's 12%, said that the reason for it is they would be worried about incurring backlash from their employer and having their career prospects damaged by claiming for a workplace incident. You know, additional questions into that talked about the other motivations for not pursuing a claim, and 41% said they wouldn't know how to pursue a legal claim. And according to Fletcher's Serious Injury, this points to a potential shortfall in employers making their employees aware of their legal rights and ensuring that they have the correct legal documentation, such as a detailed employee handbook, health and safety manuals in place. Apparently, men were also revealed to be more at risk from injury than women, with 1/3 of men in that survey having suffered a serious injury at work, compared to only 18% in women. Young men here were defined as aged 35, up to 35, were even more severely affected, with almost 6 in 10 having experienced some form of injury. So really interesting statistics. I'm not sure it's altogether surprising that the majority of major injuries happen at work. If you work in a high-risk job or you work at height, it's probably not surprising you're more likely to get an injury there than, in your everyday life. But that being said, let's not take away from, how serious that statistic is. It's across 1,000 adults, and no one should go to work and come home injured. Everyone has a right. It's like the old HSE campaign from farming. You have the right to come home safe. And health and safety injuries in the UK have been on a steady decline for the last decade. But those statistics there, still plenty of people are getting seriously injured. And sadly, we cover this all the time in HSM through our prosecutions section. Serious injuries are still happening. The most likely cause of a serious injury is still work at height. So it's something that we all have a responsibility as employers, or if you're managing people, you're responsible for health and safety. We all have a responsibility to make sure that workplaces are safe, proper protections are in place. I am forever seeing prosecutions to the HSE, what feels like the most regular prosecution of people having limbs drawn into inadequately guarded machines. This has just got to stop. There is no shortcuts to safety here. Proper risk assessments need to be carried out to make sure people are protected. And that's what the HSE are proactively inspecting for and doing prosecutions. So if you're a health and safety manager, I'm sure you'll find it useful reading the prosecutions on our website, which is hsmsearch.com. You might see similar situations to your workplace. Use it as a learning tool. And we want to really see a decrease in the amount of injuries moving forwards. So I want to now introduce my first guest for this week's podcast. I'm delighted that I was joined from Nathan Shipley, who is the PP Group Certification Manager at BSI, the British Standards Institute. I sat down with Nathan earlier and we talked in depth about what BSI has been doing to ensure only adequate PPE is entering the market during this COVID-19 pandemic. I sat down with him earlier today and here's what he had to say. Morning, Nathan. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Thanks for joining us today. We really wanted to get BSI involved in this. So let's talk about how BSI are coping during COVID-19. How are BSI finding companies reacting to COVID-19 in terms of, types of the new companies asking for testing?
Well, we've seen a massive increase in our PPE testing and certification services over the last sort of 3 months or so. We've seen sort of everything from traditional manufacturers bringing in new and adaptive products for use by healthcare professionals under the COVID-19 scenario. And we've also seen a lot of new manufacturers coming onto the market. These are including people from the Far East bringing in things like face masks. And we've also seen people that we would never normally be dealing with, such as academic colleges and universities producing things like face screens. So we've seen a massive, really wide spectrum of new type of manufacturers coming in to produce PPE for healthcare professionals.
So I just want to ask you for a differential, if that's all right. So COVID-19 certificates versus full PPE regulation, what's the difference between these two?
So we are issuing out things like Module B certificates for product under the PPE regulation, and for new manufacturers that are making complex PPE, we're issuing out Module C2 for ongoing surveillance through product testing. We have made some caveats within the certifications that we are issuing, in that we do restrict them for the use by healthcare professionals as per the recommendation 403. And we've also put a limited validity of the certificates for 12 months, as opposed to the normal 5 years that'll be on the normal Module B type certificate. So that's the kind of changes that we have made to those types of certifications that we've been issuing from BSI.
So what type of work is BSI doing for the COVID-19 situation? So let's talk about things like the type of products, technical specifications or certifications.
Okay, so I think the main product areas that we've been dealing with are face masks, face shields, and also medical clothing and gowns. We haven't seen a great deal in the way of gloves. We are a notified body for gloves, but we haven't seen a great deal. I think one of the reasons is that the glove industry is pretty well much geared up for high volume manufacturing anyway. In that if you go into a hospital environment, people are changing gloves all over the place. So they're probably better stated for the for the rapid turnaround that's being required. What we have done is at the beginning of this pandemic, we did come up with some technical specifications based on standards like EN166 for the face shields and EN149 for the face masks. What we did do is we stripped off all the industrial type applications within those standards, and we put those on our website as technical specifications that we'll be happy to certify to. So we've seen a lot of work going to our laboratories internally, testing a lot of face masks and face shields, and we've also been working with some of our partner subcontracting labs for the issuing out and the testing of clothing and gowns. And then from a certification perspective, we've been doing a lot of Module B and Module C2 certificates under the PPE reg for those products to show that they meet the essential health and safety requirements of the regulation.
So it's not very often we get to talk to people involved in testing and standards. So what are the typical issues that you come across with new products that enter the market? So, for example, typical failures of various products or the biggest challenges for new manufacturers?
I think the biggest challenges so far have been with the face masks is the filter penetration. So we've been incorporating paraffin oil penetration, which is quite an arduous test for face masks to go through, and we've been seeing around about an 80-85% failure rate with some of the masks that we've been seeing coming through. So I think that's been probably one of the key challenges for the face masks that have been coming through. With regards to the face screens, the failure rate is around about 25-26%, and one of the predominant failure reasons for that is the lateral protection area and the area coverage. So we've incorporated within our technical specification liquid splash, which means you have to have a certain rectangle covered within the by the face screen, and we're finding quite a high number of those are failing those types of clauses. So I suppose for each product that we're testing internally, that's probably the key failure rate that we're getting there.
Now, I know you work closely with the British Safety Industry Federation, as do we, and one of the big things that they pushed out and we've supported is their concerns about fake certificates or just non-compliant PPE getting into the market. And Alan Murray, the CEO over there, said on a webinar we did that since the start of the year, over 20,000 companies, more than 20,000 companies have been created in China. They've got the word mask in their name. Huge concern, I'm sure, for you as well. So when we talk about this industry issue, such as fake certificates, how do you verify a fake certificate? It's the first question I thought for you. And what do you do if someone suspects the certificate is fake?
Yeah, so, we saw an awful high number, certainly towards the beginning of April, end of March. We were seeing dozens upon dozens a day of counterfeit certificates. Some were very good and very difficult to spot. Other ones were quite obvious. Some were using our name in their own kind of rights and sort of playing on our sort of intellectual property. So we were seeing literally hundreds and hundreds of certificates at the beginning of this pandemic of people using BSI certificates. And one of the problems is that a lot of manufacturers do put these out on the websites. So if you go to a manufacturer's, they'll have as part of their website copies of certificates to prove that those products have met the met the requirements of the PPE regulation, and people are downloading those and altering them, altering test reports and all sorts of things. So we had absolutely inundated with the certificates. Now, for a BSI certificate, there are a number of different ways that you can check to see if it's valid. The first way is if they give, all our certificates are electronic, and at the footer there is a blue, you can check this online type hyperlink within the PDF version. And if you click on that one, it should take you straight away to a BSI website, and then that should give you the name of the address of the certificate holder and when it was issued and when it's valid to. And that's a good way of checking to see whether that certificate's valid. What we do find is because some of the certificates are being scanned, that hyperlink doesn't work. So we have a thing called Verify on the BSI website, and you can put the CE certificate number in there, and that again will provide you with the details as to who the certificate holder is, when it was issued, and when it's valid to. If you're still struggling with those two routes, then you can send an email to our customer services and we can have a look at it internally if there's no joy there. So there's basically three routes that you can validate whether a certificate's valid or not. I think if a certificate's not valid, we don't physically police the system, although we are actively pursuing a lot of these fraudulent certificates, both from our UK office and also our other offices throughout the world. But I think if you are presented with a fake certificate, it's basically a big no-no. So walk away from the offer that's been provided. You've done your due diligence, and I'd suggest that you do this due diligence before making any commercial transaction. Don't wait until you've got those masks or face shields or whatever it is in your warehouse. Make sure that you do your due diligence up front.
So what's the industry doing to help promote this concern? I know the BSIF, the British Safety Industry Federations we talked about earlier, have got their Registered Safety Supplier scheme, but what else is the industry doing to raise more awareness about this?
I think basically what we're looking for is trying to make people aware that there are these fake certificates being circulated and showing people what the tools are to validate those certificates. As I say, there's been a lot of people that have entered the PPE industry with no previous background and no sort of pedigree, as it were. So it's really sort of making sure people are aware of the tools that they can use and make sure that, if they're making any purchases, they're making it in good faith and that any certifications are valid. And do your due diligence up front and do that first. Don't, sort of buy in haste, repent at leisure kind of thing.
So if we talk about the PPE sector as a whole now, how do you see the PPE industry moving forward short term and more in the longer term? What's the new normal going to be with PPE in your opinion?
I think there's going to be a big change. I think one of the things that we are going to see is the things of like the use of face masks a lot more common generally. So we're going to be walking around and people are going to be wearing face masks in the street. There is a SEN project at the moment where they're looking to make public face coverings as a specification and outlaying some pass-fail criteria. I mean, even though these types of products aren't technically PPE or medical devices, they are coming up with some form of standardization to cover those types of products. And each member states are coming up with quite a bit as well. So the Germans have got a specification, as well as the French, and there's a few others scattered around Europe. So public face coverings are probably going to be a lot more sort of prevalent going forwards. And even though they're not technically classed as personal protective equipment, I think we're probably going to be the go-to industry that does sort of supply those and monitor those as an industry. I think we're going to see a lot more in the way of healthcare type PPE. So you're looking at things like face shields that don't necessarily offer mechanical protection because that's not a risk in those types of environments. So we're going to probably see a lot more in the way of PPE that's designed for healthcare professionals going forward. So I think we're in a bit of a sort of crossroads here where we're going to see not only just the industrial applications being processed as normal, but I think we're going to see a lot more avenues or other type of standards being written to cover other areas that don't currently have PPE or any type of personal protection equipment in its normal day-to-day life.
What about the impact of the removal of temporary fast tracking of PPE?
I think the fast tracking is almost coming to the end of its life in that, the crises that we had at the beginning of April, the end of March, it's still not brilliant and it's a little bit hand by mouth, but at least there is a supply coming in. So I think perhaps the 403 may have, sort of done its job. How long it goes on for, I don't know. But I think it was the fix that was needed in the short term. And it, as I say, it seems to have made a massive extent, we have been sort of dealing with the military at Daventry and sort of hearing how they're getting on with being able to supply. And it's almost like, I suppose at the moment, almost a just-in-time type approach in that there's enough to go, but there's certainly some mileage in carrying out the fast track process for a couple of months longer, certainly.
And just closing out, if people want to get in touch with you, got any questions or any concerns, what's the best way to get in touch with BSI?
Yeah, so we've got a website. We've got the product.certification at bsigroup.com email, which you can email some questions about. We have a vast number of collateral on the BSI website for COVID-19 technical specifications and also, the traditional PPE type certifications that we offer. So we have a vast amount of information on there. You can leave messages on there, which will get picked up. Visit the BSI website and you can pursue any further questions you have on there.
Nathan, thanks for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. It was a great insight.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks.
So now it's time to return our attention to the news. And I want to go on a fire safety related story. And for those of you that don't know, we actually have a sister podcast for our sister publication, Fire Safety Matters magazine. And I co-host that with Brian Sims, who's the editor. And again, if you want to listen to the FSM podcast, which is out fortnightly, just type Fire Safety Matters into iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or YouTube, and it will pop up. Or of course, you can go to the FS Matters website, which is fsmatters.com. Anyway, let's turn attention to the news here. So it would be remiss of us not to cover the Grenfell Tower tragedy again. It's the 3-year anniversary, just a couple of weeks back, and the National Fire Chiefs Council has given its view on how things have moved on since then. The NFCC, so that's for short for National Fire Chiefs Council, has said it's frustrated at the number of unsafe buildings that still remain in the UK. So to mark the 3rd anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire, the NFCC has expressed concerns about the amount of unsafe premises that's still in the UK. Now, the NFCC has welcomed the additional £1 billion government funding for the removal of cladding, but it warns the cost should not be a barrier to people's safety, and if necessary, this fund should be increased. A recent select committee highlighted that the removal of dangerous cladding would cost more than £1 billion. More than the £1 billion is in the fund, in fact. NFCC Chair Roy Wilshire has repeatedly said that this is wholly unacceptable and that people are still living dangerously through really dangerously clad buildings. In some cases, building owners are not doing enough to support residents, with some leaseholders paying unacceptable fees for safety measures, which meant they're only temporary. The NFCC has made it clear the government needs to do more, and that while some progress has been made, change hasn't happened quickly enough in its opinion. Fundamentally, reform needs to happen on building safety, it says, and this must happen much faster than it's currently doing, and the government should commit to a clear timetable and a date for the removal of cladding from all buildings where it's unsafe. The government has recently said there was an ambition for the removal of this cladding at all sites to begin by the end of the year, but this time no deadline for this completion has been committed to by the government. In fact, Roy Wilshire has commented saying, "We want people to feel safe in their homes through better legislation, regulation and clear lines of responsibility. We need to make sure we do not see another tragedy like the Grenfell Tower tragedy unfold again." So this is a pretty easy one to us to understand. I know everybody would have been just shocked 3 years ago to the devastating fire that happened at Grenfell. It was just shocking viewing. You could see a whole building, so many deaths. In all honesty, for those of us that have worked in and around the fire sector, it wasn't altogether unsurprising. There's been Lakenhall House fire before it. There is so many things that still need to be addressed, and Dame Judith Hackett has done a review of the building regs and fire safety in the UK, and the government has announced this £1 billion fund, but there are plenty of estimates to say that it's going to take more than that £1 billion, and that's certainly the view of Roy Wilshire. So it's a timely reminder to mark that 3-year anniversary of the tragedy that more still needs to be done to prevent another incident like this happening. Of course, the Grenfell Tower inquiry still goes on, which seems likely to lead to criminal prosecutions at the end of it. That will be completed by the end of this year. So it's something to think about. There's still a lot of work to be done, that's for sure. And, we'll keep revisiting this as and when the inquiry wraps itself up over the next 6 months. And, of course, how this fund gets allocated. So another story I want to go on to, the final one for the day. It's not so much a story, but I kind of need your help, your feedback. So HSM is actually doing a survey. We need feedback on the state of the PPE market. It's very timely, this. We do an annual PPE Insights Guide that will go out with the October issue of Health and Safety Matters. And currently we're seeking your views through a survey. And this is especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The survey is being conducted in partnership with Bunzl Greenham. And the results, as I said, will be forming part of the PPE Insight Guide. We normally do about a 5 or 6 page write-up on the results of these, and it'll help really play an important part in shaping the future of the PPE market as we move forwards. It'll only take you a couple of minutes to fill in the survey, and to encourage you to take part in this, there is, if you can do it anonymously, but if you don't do it anonymously, then you can go into a prize draw for receiving £100 of Amazon vouchers. The closing deadline for responses is the 31st of July. And as I said, the results will be published in great detail over many pages on our website and the PPE Insights Guide. This is a really key time to get views, everything from supply chain issues, how you consider buying PPE, what kind of PPE you need, and standards of PPE, and get grasp your understanding of it. So please do take part in this. This is something that the British Safety Industry Federation and we take very seriously every year, and really helps the BSIF look at the feedback of this so it can help look at its position and best representing the safety market in terms of PPE. So if you could take part, I'd really appreciate it. You can take part in the survey. You can go to our website, you'll find it if you go to hsmsearch.com. If you look through social media, we'll be doing tweets on the HSM Twitter account. But if you've got a couple of seconds now to jot it down, I will give you the direct link to the survey itself, which is www.surveymonkey.co.uk/ the letter R /8 D for Delta, W for Whiskey, X 7 D for Delta, R for Roger. So, of course, you don't have to note that down, and you can go to our website to see it, and we will be sending out direct emails to everybody to encourage you to take part in it. But listen, you've got a chance to win a 100% Amazon voucher, but actually, more importantly, you've got a real chance to help us and help the BSIF and Bunzl Greenham really get a good idea from your feedback of your understanding of the market and where changes need to be made. So please do take part in that. I'd really, really appreciate it. So I now want to move on to our final guest for today. Delighted to sit down with Shawcity Managing Director Neil O'Regan, who I've known for a long time. Shawcity is an excellent firm. It's based in Oxfordshire. And I sat down talking about a number of issues with Neil about how they've coped during the current pandemic, but also asked him what's next. What's the next major innovation needed for monitoring technology? Morning, Neil. How are you?
Yeah, morning, Mark. Very well, thanks. And you?
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for joining us, which, different times, obviously, for us. Obviously, first question for you then, how are you holding up during this pandemic?
Yeah, no, it's been a really strange time over the last couple of months. I guess like most people, certain parts of the business have been really strong, and then other parts have really suffered. So, it was a big impact on the team. We've had over 50% working from home, and that's been a difficult transition as well. We hadn't fully prepared for something like that, and with the speed. But also, I think we really enjoyed each other's company. We had a lovely dynamic in the office. So really, it's been counteracting that isolation from working at home. And then, it has been a big challenge for the management team. So there's been lots of new challenges that, we hadn't quite anticipated. So it's just been balancing all of those. Of course, all of our product specialist managers have now been, stuck at home for months, and that's not what they're used to. They love being out and about, seeing clients, seeing customers, hand-holding, training, all the product expertise. So it's been difficult. And then I think really it's about just trying to change this new world of virtual everything. It's draining, but that's what it's like for everybody. So every day is a new challenge, and we're smiling, which I think makes a big difference. But yeah, it would be nice to see people in the flesh again, I guess.
Well, that's always been one of the strengths that we've seen from Shawcity, really positive people, easy to get along with and easy to engage with. But not everybody that will be listening to this podcast is familiar with Shawcity. So can you tell us a bit more about the company and what products you've released in recent months?
UK company involved in distribution of, high-end technology. So we work across health and safety, occupational hygiene and environmental applications. And really it's about measuring anything that's airborne. So noise, sound, vibration, air quality and gas detection. I guess with all of COVID, so anything to do with the world of respirable and air quality. So that's fit testing of masks, and then obviously just down to pure air quality. So looking at low level particulates as well. In terms of technology, we've been lucky. So we work with some very high end manufacturers, and they've brought some really good, clever products into market. So we've had a new product called it's the Fit Check from it's a new Fit Check product called QuantiCheck from OHD, and this really it's almost like doing a daily bum test of a gas detector. It's just using that on a reusable mask, so whether that's a half mask or a full face mask, and it's about really having a quantitative means of knowing that mask is fitting you correctly. It's a bit of a subjective one in the past, is that you would do almost like a breathe down test. This gives you a green light, red light to indicate whether the mask is working correctly or not. We've also had some new gas detectors from Honeywell. So we've had a new area monitor called the RigRat. Again, so this is one we've been waiting for some time. And really clever. So it's a multi-gas area monitor, so it can measure 6-7 different gases, and then feed all that back in a number of different ways. So whether it's a cloud-based, whether you're having kind of real-time information. But it's a real good, clever product. And also they've launched a new multi-gas product, which is called the BW Icon. So following on from the BW product range, but it's Icon driven. That's new to market, which just launched, only been around for a couple of weeks. So we're really looking forward to showing that out to the market and getting feedback. And TSI have also launched another new product called Blue Sky. Again, dust monitoring for an area, but it's giving you an air quality index. So a real clear, easy indication as to the air quality of the environment that you're working in. Cloud-based system as well, so all out in the cloud, and you can just log in and see loads of information in real time. So real clever stuff. And our job, of course, is just to bring all of that to market, help the market to understand what's out there, what's available, how to use it, what's right for application, and actually what's wrong for application, because not every product is right, and it's been clear about that.
So you've only been a little bit busy in recent months then with innovation, and obviously you guys lead the way in terms of innovation. You've come up with 3 or 4 different new products there that you brought to market. But when we're talking about innovation, what do you think, Neil, is the next major innovation needed for monitoring technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think one of the major things that we've learned over the past few months with the COVID-19 situation is it's just awareness. We do this every single day, and all of a sudden it's been brought right to the forefront of it's the unknown dangers. We can't see this virus. It's difficult to detect it, and all of a sudden, when it comes to to innovation, it's that level of how do I detect the unseen, the unknown. So I don't think there's one kind of clear product that needs to be produced and come out in the market. It's much more about the awareness of what's already there, what already exists, and how we use it. And I think a lot of people are aware that health and safety, it's not about the slips and the trips and all of those. That's a part of health and safety, but it's much more along the lines of actually what's in the environment, what's in the atmosphere, what are we being exposed to that we're not really aware of. And now it's understanding what do we need to do to try and protect ourselves from that. So really, in major innovation, it's probably what have we already got, and how can we use it to help us in the current climate and going forward? Because this isn't the end of it. We're going to have other new viruses or other new things that will happen in the market that are going to change how we view it. So that would be my take on it.
So what do you think is the biggest issue facing the health and safety sector moving forward? Or in fact, you can relate that if you want to more of your part of the market, the monitoring technology side.
Yeah, there's a couple of things really. So in a sense, everything happened really quickly. Lots of decisions were made based on, kind of, let's protect the health of individuals. And therefore, things were shut, closed, stopped really rapidly. And all of a sudden, we now have to go back in and starting some of those processes, returning people back to the workplace. So a real big issue is going to be, is it safe to do that? So it's not just a matter of opening the door and welcoming people back in. Are the instruments, the technology that we have used, are they working correctly? Because sometimes they're used in life-saving environments. And if it's not working, we're now trusting people who have spent months isolating and protecting themselves. The last thing we want to do is actually put them in danger because the technology, the instruments they're using are not calibrated, they've not been maintained, they've not been serviced, or they're just not accurate enough. They're giving you an indication, but that indication is it's a little too late. And unfortunately, the damage is done by the time you realize it. And another thing that we've experienced, it's a little lack of knowledge maybe in the industry. So people who would be on the shop floor, who'd be walking around, who can just view and see things differently. They've been doing it for a number of years. Their expertise is being able to see something before it even happens. And now they're based at home. They're at home homeschooling. They're at home doing what they have to do. Maybe it's looking after other people. And somebody else's responsibility has been passed across. And it's that level of where there's a little uncertainty. That uncertainty could lead to something which is going to be a much bigger issue. So it's not just about product, it's about the people involved as well, and the skills and the knowledge that has been, I guess, attained over many, many years. And it's just trying to balance all of those. A risk assessment in the good old days, if we go back to the start of the year, a risk assessment was, okay, right, I know what I'm doing. Now the risk assessment is a very different thing completely. So there's a lot. But thankfully, there's great companies out there who really know what they're talking about, and it's really working with people who you know and trust. It's stick with those people who you've always trusted in. Don't cut corners. Don't try and save a couple of pounds because it feels like we have to cut corners and save money. It's actually we've got to save life. That's the most important thing. Protect life, save life. That for me is the key.
Well, you obviously shared with us the number of innovations you've done over the last few months, and knowing you guys as I do, I'm sure this will be a period of time when you've gone back to being even more creative. So can I ask, what's next in the product pipeline for Shawcity?
Well, it's a secret, Mark. I could never give that away at this stage. As I said, we're in the game of distribution, so we're reliant on manufacturers giving us some new technology. All the new stuff is out there. There is certainly stuff in the pipeline. It's possibly just a couple of weeks too early to start to telling the world about it because we're just not ready and the manufacturers are not ready. But there's certainly stuff coming. We have got our monthly newsletter, which is called Detection. That tends to give updates on what's coming. We often drip feed a little bit just to let the audience know what's on the way. But yeah, so keep an eye out for the monthly newsletter from Shawcity. It's there's some good stuff coming.
Yeah, and we'll go into how to get in touch with you. But obviously, as we said earlier, there's been a lot of innovations that you guys have done thanks to the manufacturers using you guys. So this is probably the right time to ask if people want to find out more information about Shawcity and how can they sign up to that newsletter. What's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so all the normal channels. We use social media a lot, so we're on LinkedIn, Twitter. Of course, we've got our website, so it's shawcity.co.uk. I'd love to say we're going to be at loads of exhibitions this year, but it feels like the exhibition market is it's going to be difficult this year. But the sales guys are out and about. Jump onto our website, give us a call, and or look out for us on social media. Hopefully, most people know of us, but if not, it's shawcity.co.uk.
Neil, it's always great to speak to you, my friend. Thanks for your time.
No worries, Mark. Absolute pleasure.
that's all we've got time for in this edition of the Health and Safety Matters podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors, the Health and Safety event, which, as we announced earlier, is moving to April 2021 for its next show in the NEC in Birmingham. If you've registered already, your ticket's still valid to go. But actually, you can still register for free. Just go to the Health and Safety event website, which is healthandsafetyevent.com. Now, please do share and like this podcast. Give us a good rating and feedback on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, however you do it. Please also encourage your colleagues and friends to download the podcast. It comes out every fortnight on a Monday. In the meantime, if you're looking for the latest health and safety news, please do go to the HSM website, which is www.hsmsearch.com. And as I mentioned in our news story earlier, we'd really appreciate it if you took part in our PP Insight survey to give us a really great understanding of your needs for PPE and how they're changing. So please do go to our website and take part in that, and you'll have the opportunity to win a £100 Amazon voucher if you share your details. Otherwise, you can do it anonymously. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Health and Safety Matters podcast.